Okay, great.
I think I got it figured out.
Good stuff. Okay, so guys, welcome to everybody from Spain, UK, Florida. We've got some special guests on again. My name is Peter Bradley. I'm the director of coaching. Just a quick reminder on professional standards. Would really prefer you having your cameras on. Please use the chat function for questions coming up. Let's make sure we adhere to our professional standards that we've been doing a great job on. And just a quick update, not reminder, but we have our next guest speaker will be February 23rd at 10 o'clock, not 11 o'clock. That will be Dan Abrahams. Dan is a world-renowned sports psychologist. I've had the pleasure of speaking to him before. He's absolutely tip top. So he will be the next guest speaker on after Caden's today. So again, sorry for the challenges, Caden. Really appreciate you giving up your time. So Caden Foreman, everybody. Caden is a ADA UK alumni from 2021-22. Really the objectives of today's call are really threefold for me, and obviously Caden's the star here, but it's really how to be successful and deliberate in your development process as it pertains to the collegiate process or even the professional pathway process and communication attached to that. It's an insight into the collegiate experience at a top Division II school, which Caden will go through with us. And then I want to just spend maybe the last few minutes talking about opportunities that may arise post-playing college. Some of you may have been on social media over the transfer window and seen the story on Nathan Opoku, who basically has been signed by Leicester City after coming through an NAIA school and then transferring to an NCAA Division I school. So again, the stories of players going through their collegiate pathway and then moving into professional ranks, have been happening and are continuing to happen as we move along. So Caden Foreman, over to you, big man here. So what I'd like you to do is just, we'll start with the football piece, then we'll move on to some more of the process piece, and then we'll just talk about the future. So Caden, why don't you just give us a quick overview of basically Rollins College and what it is before we get into the football?
Yeah, of course. Sorry about the joining issues, but hopefully you can hear me now good. Rollins is a D2 program in the Sunshine State Conference in Florida. It's in Orlando, Florida. And it's like our team, we did really well this year. We lost in the quarterfinals of the national tournament, which is the best the program's done in about 15, 20 years. And I mean, it's a really high quality and a really high level to play at, and it's definitely compared to.
Stay with me on the school first. So we're talking a liberal arts school. How many students there, roughly?
I think around 3,500 maybe.
And in terms of its location, suburbs or in the middle of Orlando, where is it?
Yeah, it's about 15 minutes north of downtown Orlando.
Yeah, and again, you're looking at Rollins is you're looking to be a solid B student into being with some A sprinkled in to be attending Rollins College, and your position there. So when you got there, your expectations going in from a football perspective, Caden, were what? What did you think coming out of IDA and going into that environment? What were your expectations in your head of playing time and what to expect?
I didn't know really what to expect because I had never really seen a lot of Division II teams play. I'd seen a lot of Division III teams close to home, and obviously you've seen D1 teams on the TV and everything. But when I got here, the level was so high. This conference in Division II is the best in Division II. We have like the most teams go to the national tournament every year, so it's definitely the most competitive it can get, and probably closest to D1 in all of Division II. And the quality was really high, and I was lucky enough to be able to play and start every single game for the team this year, which
tell
I think
what you are.
Not many other freshmen.
Yeah, tell people what you are as a player. What position do you play?
I'm a left back, and sometimes in a left wing back in like a back three. I can play center back too, but yeah, I think I was really happy to play as much as I did this year. And I think I had like the third most minutes on the team.
Yeah. So again, just he's being a little bit humble here, right? They played 19 games, and Caden started all 19 games, and as he said, he played a remarkable amount of minutes as a freshman. But what was the preseason like, Caden? And again, what was the communication from the coaching staff to you coming in as a freshman? Like, did you, when you were coming in, did you think, okay, I'm going to have to make my mark? Did you come in thinking, okay, I'll play a little bit? I mean, did you get there and say, right, the level's high, but I'm up for it? Like, walk us through what the
Yeah.
preseason was actually like from you hitting campus to what actually transpired that first few weeks as they kind of tried to figure out what you were.
Yeah. I think lucky enough for my situation, they were in pretty desperate need of a left back. So there was only one other player in my position that I kind of recognized when I got to preseason. Um, and I was lucky enough to kind of win out that position, even though he was a graduate student. And so once I got to campus, I think the expectation was pretty quickly for me to play a lot of minutes for the team just because of the situation and the numbers that they had, where I play. So once I got to campus and talked to the coaches, it was pretty straightforward. Like I had to win my battle in preseason with some of the other guys, but then after that, they expected me to kind of play a big role in the team for this season.
And what were the physical expectations coming in? Did they send you physical workouts to do prior to arriving? Did you arrive in good shape, okay shape, brilliant shape, best shape of your life?
Yeah, we have like a strength and conditioning coach, and he gave us a packet over the whole summer to do it's almost like an everyday thing. And I followed that all summer. I came in really fit and passed all the fitness tests, which was a huge thing for college soccer. Like coaches really look at that and value that because the physical part of the game is really important, just like it is over there, what I experienced in IDA. So it was probably the best shape that I've been in coming into any preseason or season.
And then again, so so you said, so preseason you won your spot, and that was playing some preseason friendlies and the training sessions. And how many players were in the training sessions? Like how competitive was it? How did you get on with camaraderie from the outset?
Yeah, we actually have a really big squad. I think it's around like 35 guys. And so in preseason, it was a really big battle. Like every training session, every inter squad scrimmage, every preseason game we had, everybody was fighting for their spot because there were so many new guys and transfers of all ages. Like graduate kids coming in, they're like 23, 24, with like all these years of Division One experience versus some of us freshmen who have never played at that level. So it's a really weird mix in preseason to try and get a feel for how the game is going to go and the intensity and stuff like that. But it was really easy to kind of like gel with the team, and we had really good team chemistry, which is I think one of the strengths that we had throughout the whole season.
And so 35 lads, but the expectation obviously did that get cut down as the season went on, or was that 35 all the way through?
Yeah, around halfway through maybe like a quarter of the way through the season, there was like a group of players that they kind of broke off to train by themselves that weren't traveling with the team very much. And then there was probably like 3 or 4 fringe guys who would travel with the team on certain occasions or because of injuries or something like that, that would still train with the first team, if that makes sense, the whole season.
And how many weeks did that last for? So as sort of that preparation part of finding out where you stood in the squad, was that 2-3 weeks? How long was that before you played your first league game?
We came in August 1st, and I would say maybe the first or second week of September is kind of when they started to break off the guys who they kind of felt were either going to redshirt or not travel with the squad or not really have any role to play in the team.
Right. And then sort of going into the season then, so obviously you mentioned it at the start. So Rollins had a phenomenal season this year. They went 11-4-4 and made it to the quarterfinals of the NCAA. They lost in a weird game that they were winning 1-0. It was postponed due to rain, Caden, or what was the
Yeah. Yeah, the weather, like we couldn't play on the field anymore after halftime.
Postponed at halftime, came back to play it. The other team scored in the last few minutes and went on to win it in penalty kicks. So a bit of a great season, a tough way to end. But in terms of the balance of your football and your academics in season, can you just let the lads know, like how did that look? How did you manage your studies with travel, away games? Like what did the schedule look like in season?
Yeah, well, I'm a business management major, on track to get my master's in business at Rollins. So I have to have a bit more of an accelerated track with the classes I take. But I made sure the first semester I kind of scheduled light, just because I knew I was going to be so busy, and not to mention like adjusting to college life too. But honestly, for me, I think I'm more productive and I get my work done and almost do better in school while I'm in season, while I have less time to kind of mess around and waste time like I do in the spring maybe. Like I know I have to get stuff done, before practice or before we go on an away trip or something like that. So obviously it's tough at first, but for me, like I took classes when I was at IDA in the fall too, and so I think kind of getting in that habit early really helped me this fall being able to manage everything.
And how much travel was there in your schedule? Like, what was your how many away
Ah,
games?
yeah.
Boys, make sure you mute it, please.
Best section we're here.
Hold on a second.
I'll get some feedback from them. Is it
Can
all
we,
right?
Oscar, off the buddies.
Sorry, I can't say that. Guys, whoever's not
Anyone
muted,
else
please
pull out?
mute. I can't
Nah,
see
just
who
me.
it is.
Excuse me. Obviously, obviously, guys are feeling a bit sore, but he'll be okay. David was feeling a bit, but he'll be all right.
Hold on.
Sorry, Pete. Can
Sorry.
you mute him because he won't realise?
I think it was Ross. It was Ross.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Sorry, Caden. Fire away.
No worries. We actually had a lot of away games, especially at the start. I think we only had one home game in the first like month and a half of the season. So that was really tough at first, like, being gone for maybe like three days or a whole weekend, or, getting back late at like 1 a.m. after like a 3-hour trip, and then having to go to 8 a.m. the next morning was probably the toughest part. But I think just being able to like lean on the older guys on the team to see how they kind of managed everything too was really helpful for me to kind of know when I could get my work done, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And you mentioned there just in the last couple of sentences, like some of the adjustments of going into it as a freshman. So what were some of the, I mean, obviously, again, you mentioned ADA in preparation and helping with sort of like being ready for some of the football stuff, and having been away from home, and the maturation piece of being away from home, I think is
Yeah.
when I speak to college coaches, they tell me that's one of the things that they really like about the ADA experience, is that a player is going away from their family experience, their hand holding, not much, but you're having to go and fend for yourself. So what were some of your biggest challenges going in as a freshman, like on and off the pitch?
Yeah, I mean, I think I can lean on more like the other freshmen in my class too, because I think IDA really helped me like with the schedule and kind of preparation for like when we would have like recovery sessions or like strength sessions, like that kind of like all encompassing. It's not just practice and games. I think that helped me because it was easier to adjust to like the more intense schedule of college soccer, even in the spring, like the amount of stuff that we have. Like I know some of the other freshmen that have just come in from high school have really struggled with like how many events we have as a team and how much stuff we have to be accountable for. So I think that helped. But honestly, like just being with a bunch of older guys, like because there's only maybe 2 or 3 freshmen that would travel to every game, and especially at the start of the season when you're not as close with everybody, that's kind of an adjustment I'd say, is like meeting everybody from different places and trying to get to know everybody and like build a strong bond quickly. But it's easy when you spend that much time with them preseason and stuff like that.
How have you managed your diet?
I've been pretty good at it. We have like really good food here on campus, and there's a lot of options, and all the stuff we get through the team like during the season and pre-match meals and all that, and recovery and stuff like that has been fairly easy, I'd say. But maybe I'm in a luckier situation than some other colleges. I'm not sure.
And then just I'm gonna ask guys if you want to ask some questions at the end of this phase before we go on to the next phase. But so think about some questions. Use the chat function if you want to ask, as I asked my last couple here on the football piece. So you mentioned again off season, like so now like everybody in season, Division 1, Division 2, Division 3, NAIA in the fall season. My sense is that everybody's going full pelt. As people look at Division 1, Division 2, difference to Division 3. What's your winter schedule, your spring schedule look like?
Yeah, well, we're just kind of starting that now, and because our season ended so late because we went so far in the tournament, we actually don't start a normal training like 4 or 5 days a week schedule for another 2 weeks. So we just had strength and conditioning stuff with our coach every day, and he's got like a plan for us, and we started that last week. So we have it 4 days a week, and then once training starts, we'll have training 4 to 5 days a week. A lot of times in the mornings, like 6:15 a.m. practices before classes start, so everybody can be there. And then we'll have liftings at night at like 5, and that's kind of the typical thing. And then we have some inter squad scrimmages on the weekend before we have like a mini spring schedule, just a bunch of friendlies versus D1 teams, some local D2 teams, and like a couple spring like season little tournaments, if that makes sense. So
Yeah,
that's what it kind of looks like.
And you've already spoken to me in the last few weeks about your summer plan. So just let the lads know what you're considering for post-college summer plans.
Yeah, well, when I came in last summer, when I was coming in, I didn't know at the level I'd be at and how the season would go. But for me, I've always wanted to try and play at the USL2 level, which is kind of like a summer season here. It's like the like 3 or 4 divisions below the MLS. And it's basically where college kids go and play, and some get paid, some get compensation. But that's what I'm looking to do this summer with a few teams around the US. So that'd be the ideal plan.
So none of them get paid, Caden. Don't be saying that, or you'll be ruining people's compliance.
Yeah.
They don't get paid.
I thought they would.
They may work camps and be put up, but they don't formally get paid, or else they'd be professional, which would ruin their collegiate career. So again, just in terms of how IDA prepped you for the football experience, give me some feedback on that. Obviously, the IDA UK staff are so proud of what you've done, but how do you feel like from a football perspective you were prepped to go into what to expect?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was pretty essential for me to grow. Like playing at the under 23 level there was huge for me. Just the physicality of the players, and like kind of directness of, for me, like defending one-on-one against like direct wingers there at the under 23 level really helped me. When I here to just see the game and how direct everybody is at times, especially in like the games when it's not all nice football on the ground. You have to be ready to be physical and like win your battles and just get stuck in. So I think that was the biggest part for me. It's just the physicality, getting adjusted to that.
Right.
And IDA really helped me with that.
Awesome. So guys, any questions, coaches, players, any questions just on like anything, like division 2 level? And as Caden just alluded to, I think sometimes people don't understand it, right? Division 1, Division 2, Division 3, and you can have a Division 2 school beat a lot of Division 1 schools. You can have Division 3 schools beat Division 2 schools. It's not Division 1 are all better than Division 2 or all better than Division 3. And then if you go into the NAIA world, which can be a great fit for people as well, some of the top teams in NAIA are absolutely outstanding with a lot of older players. And I'd say the best college team I've seen in the last 25 years I saw in the fall was UNH, and they had 7 postgrads playing for them. They had a 25-year-old German playing the center midfield for them. So it's a variety of different experiences depending on where you go. And from what we try to do is try and pick the right fit. And that's what I want to talk about next, is just the process. So before we go into that, anybody got any questions directly for Caden or anything on the football side of things? You can use the chat function, or I can unmute you if you want to stick your hand up. I'll give you 60 seconds to consider it. All good? Andy Hunt, question? I'm going to unmute you, Hunty. I want you to ask a question.
Who is the best coach in the UK?
Oh, for God's sakes.
Sorry, Pete. I couldn't understand.
Sorry. Okay, don't answer that.
Can't put me under pressure.
Yeah, don't answer that. Plead the fifth. Take the fifth on that. Don't answer. You'll upset someone.
It's definitely not me.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to move on from that one. Anybody? No questions. Nobody's got any questions on what? I still got some more. I'd ask. Like it was the physical piece the most when you played your games, and the other teams, was it physical? Did you see people playing in a 4-3-3 more than anything else? Did you see? The players you're playing against, were they tricky wingers? Were they big wingers? Like what did you think in the football side of things? You're going, this is a ton better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it was definitely a higher level than I expected coming in. And for example, like we actually just played. I should have probably included this, but we actually just played a friendly against Minnesota United's MLS team last weekend, and the difference in kind of style, like. When we play, big conference games, I feel like we're having to head the ball away a lot and win second balls, and it's kind of scrappy at first. But when we played Minnesota United last weekend, the difference was just like there was no balls in the air, like everything was on the ground, and the movement was a lot better. So I think that made me realize, kind of like in our own season, how much, how direct some teams are against us. But in terms of our own style of play, we love to play and always, play around and break teams down. So there was definitely similarities to some of the under 23 games that I played in England, just how direct they were and just competitive at times, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and Paul Gooch just asked the question: how different is playing out there compared to the standard in the UK? So you've just touched on that. How did you get on against Minnesota United?
Well, it was a lot too little. We'll just say that.
Good answer. So anything else? Again, Paul's question: differences in the sort of the UK. You mentioned the direct piece. Anything else?
No, I'd say another similarity is like you have to be fit, especially in my position. Like we played a back three a lot of times, so I was up and down a lot. And the first couple of games of the season, especially in the heat here, like I was cramping up and had to come out like earlier than I would have liked. But by the end of the season, I was, conditioned to play 90 and 130 minutes sometimes, or 120 minutes sometimes if the game like required it. So I think, yeah, like physicality and how fit you are, how strong you can be on the ball and off the ball is another similarity.
Awesome. Okay, so just a little bit here on the process in terms of like obviously working with not everybody in IDA is looking at the collegiate process, but they're looking at the collegiate process or the professional pathway. And I think the communication with a college coach and a professional club, there's definitely similarities. So I just want to go through some of the things that you did in order to be successful. So how did you start? Like in terms of thinking about the college process, how did you start? When did you start? Where did you start? What did you do?
For me, I always knew that I wanted to play at the college level and in college. For me, I always wanted to go to a big Division I school just because I think that's everybody's dream normally, and that's kind of where I wanted to go to school. And that's kind of why I took the gap year and went to IDA, is because COVID kind of ruined my recruiting right when I needed to be, like hitting all the schools and stuff like that. And so I thought I'd give myself an extra year. And I actually did have like really good Division I opportunities when I came back from IDA that winter. Like when I went to one or two ID camps for a school at called Belmont, for example, and things just didn't work out. Like I didn't perform on the day or whatever. So then that kind of led me to keep searching and keep emailing schools and just kind of not take no for an answer. And that's kind of how I ended up here.
So, Kate, how did you build your initial list? So you obviously you mentioned Belmont there, and obviously you and I work closely on some of these things. But how did you build your initial list of schools to say, here's what I'm going to go after?
For me, it was just kind of like I looked up all the conferences in Division I, Division II. Looked at location was a big thing for me, about like where the schools were, because I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do in college yet. Like I wasn't looking at if the college had my specific major, more or less. It was just kind of they offered a broad variety of majors, which was easier for me. Versus if someone wants to kind of do a certain thing, then I would definitely make sure you look to see if the college you want to go to offers that kind of program. But I just kind of looked up all down like conferences in Division I, Division II, Division III, and just looked at location and kind of size of school and what the campus looked like. And then I just made a big list and just I shot way above maybe what I could have and maybe way below, just to get a wide variety of places to go, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, my favorite college story ever is I was doing a college panel, and the coach of a women's program said the weirdest application he got for the all women's school was from a male player asking to play there, which was a little bit bizarre. So it shows you he didn't do a ton of research on his schools that fitted him. So and then just the communication process itself. Right. So how again, you just mentioned some things about not taking no for an answer. And again, so how did you find the communication process? How did you do it? What did you use? How did did you get your nose snubbed a few times? How did it go?
Yeah, I mean, I was always on top of highlight videos and stuff, because I knew that was probably my best chance of getting coaches to be interested at first, through emails and just nonstop emailing and seeing maybe saying stuff in my emails about the school, about how the team had recently done, if I looked it up or something, just to make it seem even like I was more interested, or if I was that interested, to let them know I wasn't just another kid sending a random batch of 50 emails out. But to be honest, like the email process and recruiting process is super frustrating. And for me, like I got a lot of just people ignoring me, or like saying, because of COVID, like we can't bring you in for this, we have too many people, or stuff like that. And so you just gotta, if you really want to play in college, you just gotta keep persevering keep sending emails because, the right spot will end up in your lap somewhere if you keep working for it.
And so let's just talk on the closure piece then. How did the closure happen then with Rollins? You say, I'll throw it out there, and for doing this stuff with IDA, you were one of the most persistent, organized, and effective in terms of you hassled me a bunch, which was great. And you would ask me a ton of questions on, what does this mean? I remember you sending me emails from college coaches saying, I can't interpret this. Can you help me understand? Are they telling me I'm no good? Are they telling me they like me? I mean, I don't understand it. And then what's my response? So just the actual closure piece. And then I've got a question on Millicent's iPhone for us. I'm not sure who Millicent's iPhone is, but we're going to ask the question after this. So what was the closure piece? How did you close out Rollins at the end?
Well, I mean, if I remember correctly, like we were going through this kind of conference and seeing what teams I would like to try and reach out to. And I reached out to Rollins one email, and later that same day, the coach replied, and I think you had a connection there too, which really helped. But the coach replied like almost instantly and was like, "Yeah, we really like what we see from you. Can we get you down here for a trial with the team in like 2 weeks?" So it was nice to feel like they really wanted to bring me in versus like if they were kind of iffy about the subject or didn't really know if they weren't sure about me. So then when I came down for the trial, it was pretty much immediate. Like after the game, it was like an 11-11 game with the team, and pretty much as soon as the game ended, the coach was like, "Yeah, we want you here," and gave me an offer. And we talked more about money and stuff on the phone later, but that's kind of ended up how it ended up finally ending, if that makes sense.
And you were able to get an academic package and an athletic package, and the athletic package actually grows from freshman to sophomore to junior senior, right?
Correct. And like I think there's opportunity for me to try and maybe not ask for more money, but just based on my performance, like keep trying to see where the money could go, if that makes sense.
100%. And just so again to explain this, that from the athletic scholarship perspective, Division threes don't do any, Division twos, Division ones do, NAIA Division ones do, and as an athletic scholarship is only granted for a year, so it can be changed. And even though a coach might say to you, "We're going to do this, this, and this," he started every game, so he's well within his rights to go back to the coaching staff and say, "Hey, if I start every game next year and get 5 goals and 8 assists, I'd like, what can I get more athletic scholarship?" And again, if he's a key player, there's every chance that would happen. Not guaranteed, but could happen. Millicent's iPhone. I don't know who it is, but I'm unmuting you. So if you want to ask a question, fire away.
Hey Peter, it's Al. It's Alistair here.
Okay, go Alistair. Sorry.
Just want to say, Caden, what's your plans like after college if you want to pursue anything outside of collegiate level? Or maybe even transfer from Rollins to a higher school?
Yeah, good question, Al. I think if I decided I wanted to keep going in football and see where I could go, I think the USL2 route is good just because of connections and how closely related they are to big Division I schools and stuff. But there's always the possibility of transferring to a big D1 school, like or trying to, or entering the transfer portal. But to be honest, I'm really happy here, so I don't really see myself doing that anytime soon. But I think it's always a possibility, especially when you're playing at this high of a level. I think coaches like to bring in guys that can prove they play at the college level, and especially when they see like what conference we're in and what we've done. I think if I was to transfer, it'd be a good look based on what I've done here so far.
Great question, Alistair. And again, just this is my personal philosophy, and Caden, you just kind of echoed it a little bit. Trying to identify a school or a club at a professional level that's the right fit. You kind of take the factors that are important to you before you make the decision, and then you kind of go, okay, this is what it's got academically, this is what it's got athletically, this is what it's got socially, this is why I'm choosing it. And then if my sense is, if you go in somewhere saying, well, I'm going here in order to transfer somewhere later on the line, it can be problematic. Doesn't say it can't work. It's worked for a bunch of players in the past. But I love Caden's response. Like, okay, he knows where he's at. He likes where he's at. He's happy where he's at. And so whilst the transfer portal is easier to manage now than it was, say, 10 years ago, it's still, I don't think it's the right mindset to be going into a school thinking, well, I'm going to transfer out of here in 2 years' time. If something happens in that period, then there might be a rationale for doing it. But other than that, I think you really want to plot and plan for, I'm going here because of these reasons, which are under my control and which are driving me to choose this. But I'll just go into the US system, and then I'll wrap up at the end here because we're 35 minutes in. So USL2, as Caden mentioned, is kind of it's an amateur opportunity for players to play pretty much from middle of May through until the end of July, early August. So it kind of dovetails into the college preseason. There's about, I don't know, 130 teams in USL2 scattered all across the country, and they bring players in, and typically they'll train anywhere from 2 to 4 times a week, and they'll play 1 to 2 games within a regional league system. So if you're in New England, you've got a team in New Hampshire, you've got a team in Western Massachusetts, team in Connecticut, teams in Massachusetts itself, and you would play a league season, and then you would go on to playoffs and see where you go. So it's a great pathway for players who are in college looking to play in the summer and keep up their game. You've got USL 1 above that, which is about 15 teams, 14, 15 teams. It's more semi-pro, but some of those players are getting paid, 30 to 50 grand a year. It's an opportunity for them to keep playing, and you'll see a range of younger and older players in that. Going up from that, you've got MLS Next Pro and what's called the NASA. It's the National Independent Soccer League. There's about 9 or 10 teams in NISA. There's about 25 teams in MLS Next Pro. MLS Next Pro is pretty recent in that it's kind of the MLS second teams, and they will have squads of up to 35 with a certain percentage being US based, and then some space for international players. And then going up to the next group is USL Championship. USL Championship has about 22 to 25 teams. And some of you will know Mark Spalding, who's been on the call. Mark's a very good friend and is our technical director for IDA. Mark was at Rangers Football Club and has just moved to Memphis 903 in the USL Championship as their assistant coach. So he's a great connection for us moving forward into that realm, in that space. USL Championship is fully pro. So the group Memphis 903, where Mark's gone, is part owned by Tim Howard, the former Everton goalkeeper. And then obviously it goes up to MLS. So the MLS program, you've got 28 teams. Almost in all of the leagues right now, there's pending teams coming into the league, but MLS right now is 28. So a young player looking to move their way through that system, there's definitely opportunities to do that. So the US structure is becoming more sophisticated, higher level, and better opportunities for young players coming through. And certainly the door is not closed to collegiate players, which I want to just re-emphasize. Any questions before I just wrap up here, Caden? I've got a few last things just to ask you, and then we'll open it up to the floor. So Caden, in terms of like specifically areas that you think you got help by being in IDA, like what areas do you think have helped you the most?
For sure, adjustment to the level and speed of play and physicality of the actual game and playing. But I think another big thing was just connections and people I'm learning even more now that like in terms of jobs and internships and like even USL2 stuff, and obviously how I got here, you knew one of the coaches here. Just having those connections, all across the world, and the people you meet was probably one of the most like beneficial things for me too.
Right. So the networking piece is huge. And again, so Caden's looking at USL2 right now, and we're trying to help him with the Nor'easters in New Jersey, where we have good connectivity. And Caden will be speaking to the former coach to that club who's now moved on, but he'll help him with that process. Hopefully that works out for Caden for the summer of 2023. And then my last part then, Caden, before I do throw it open to the floor, is any sort of singular or a couple of pieces of advice you give to the players who are looking at the collegiate pathway or looking at professional pathway and saying, okay, here's some things that you would say in order to be successful in this. Here's a couple of things I've learned from my journey.
Yeah, I think just more off the field and on the field, like your work rate, I'd say has to be the same as much as you get in the gym and as much as you go to the field and run and all that stuff. I think you have to work just as hard and be just as consistent with your email and your communication with coaches, your research with schools, picking the right ones to go to, not just going to every single ID camp you think you can. Like, I think getting those connections with coaches is probably the most important piece that I would say, because I believe like if you keep working hard at that and are consistent and don't stop trying to reach out, then the right fit will.
Yeah, you just broke up at the end there. Okay, Caden, you broke up a little bit. So guys, last couple of 3 minutes here, I'm going to throw it out to you guys. Anybody got a question? I can unmute you or use the chat function. If you stick your hand up, I'll unmute you and you can ask your question directly, or you can use the chat function. You pick. Anybody? Oh, yeah, Sarah, hold on.
Hi.
There you go. Go fire away, Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah Manug. I'm a parent of a prospect. My son is in school today, so isn't on this. But my question for Caden is, you went through the process a little bit, but you had difficulties because of COVID, and then you went through it again. Were you reaching back out to some of the same coaches, or did you have a new list after attending IDA? And then also, did you go to IDA for 1 year or half a year? And just confirming, it sounds like you were in the UK, but just wanted to confirm that. So it's kind of like 3 questions. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. I reached out to a lot of the same schools. I think as I got more no's for an answer of the schools that I've been talking to or emailing for, a year and a half, or I'd already been to their ID camps and it didn't look like it was going to work out, then I tried to broaden my search, which is kind of how I found this conference and this area of schools where I ended up. And yes, I came to IDA England for 6 months in the fall of 2021, I believe. And
Caden, again, just so people know, Caden also has Canadian citizenship, and he also explored the Canadian pathway. So when him and I were working together, he explored several schools in Canada, and I think Simon Fraser, which is a Canadian school that actually plays in the NCAA Division II, was one of the schools you were looking at. But again, the point is, he broadened his horizon to look at a bunch of different things. And Sarah's great question is that the list piece is obviously a move. It's not a set target, right? It will adjust. Some will say no, some will say yes, some will pop up. So that's completely that's completely common for people to sort of alter their list as they move through it, which he did. I mean, he at the very start, it was he had a couple he was nailed down on, didn't quite work out, and he was persistent, organized, communicated effectively, worked his backside off, and he got what he deserved. So I mean, again, there's no silver bullet to this process. It's not like I can pick up a phone and say, right, let me place Andy Hunt somewhere. It's the relationship building with a school who thinks you're smart enough, good enough, and genuinely want to go there is the secret sauce to winning at the college placement program. Great question. Anybody else? Well, that's great. Caden Foreman, you were absolutely superb, big man. We appreciate you giving up your time. I'm sure things are hold on. We got a question here from Dean Harper. What USL team are you interested in? Are you interested in playing in Europe? So Dean, I'll answer the first one. So he's asked me to reach out to the Nor'easters, which I just mentioned. They're Ocean City Nor'easters based in New Jersey. So that'll be one of the teams he speaks to. They might say no to him. He may have to look somewhere else, and we can try and help with that. But that's the one he's looking at right now. Caden, are you interested in playing in Europe?
I mean, I think it may be a little unrealistic from my perspective, but obviously anything can happen. But I would love to, but I don't know if that's realistic from where I'm at. And there's also like other USL teams that have reached out to my coaches here that have kind of made me think that I should maybe pursue this summer and that I can play at that level, if that makes sense too.
Yeah, awesome. Caden Foreman, you're a gentleman and a scholar. We appreciate your time, guys. Everybody else, enjoy the rest of your week. I will send this out as a recording to everybody. So enjoy the rest of your week, guys. And Caden, thank you so much again. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Good luck.
Take care. Bye.